Hi guys, there's a video you're about to watch which is our video of removing the dash. We had to pull the dash out to get to the heater core. You'll see all that in the video. I just want to give a quick explanation before it starts. There's some things in the video that we've removed that probably didn't need to be removed. We couldn't find a clear-cut instructions of what had to be done and what didn't have to be done, so we've probably taken things out in some instances that didn't have to come out. Things like the ICC and the instrument cluster could have stayed in retrospect, but we've pulled them out. Possibly could have left the steering wheel on, but we've taken the steering wheel off. You do have to drop the steering column, there's no way around that. You'll also notice that we delayed taking the console off. I thought for a long time we could get the dash out without removing that center console. In the end, we gave up and had to take it out. So in retrospect, probably take the console and the seats, the front seat at least, out first so you can get to that handbrake. Then once that's out, it will make it a lot easier. So a few things out of order, a few things we've done extra, but you'll get the hint, you'll get the hang of it. Hope you enjoy the video. Well, hi guys, we're back here with Henry's FG. Earlier in the week, he came home and there was a heck of a lot of coolant leaking into the footwell. That's all wet. You can see all that mess there. He's put some sort of crystals there to dry it up. He soaked it up. It's still fairly wet. I've got it sitting here in the sun at the moment. No water on the passenger footwell, just the driver's. So I'm suspecting it's heater core related and something to do with probably where the coolant comes in through the firewall. If you look in the engine, you can see the connector there into the firewall is on the driver's side. Sorry about that glare. Doesn't seem to be any leaking on this side of the firewall. It's all on the interior. So my first job is try and clean this up. We'll get that kick panel off there. I've watched a few videos. Nothing in this process looks like it's going to be easy. It's all up in under the dash, pulling half the dash out. I'll try and do that with as little disturbance to the dash as possible, but we'll see how we go. Never done this one before. We'll see if we can diagnose the problem first, if my suspicions are correct, and then if we have to pull the whole heater box out, we'll work through that, I guess, as we go. I've just pulled that kick panel off. You can see a bit of coolant leaking down there now. So I'll keep exploring and see what I can find. Alright, we've got this vacuumed. We might try and see what we can see up underneath this now. Alright, we've decided to have a crack at this ourselves, just disconnecting the battery so airbags and things don't go off in our face, and then we'll start stripping the interior. So there's a trick to this, and it's putting a screwdriver up through this hole and popping this horn pad off. Oh, that got it. So just pushing that up. So once that comes loose, there's a couple of connectors down here we'll disconnect, and that should all then just come away. Let's just try this. So when you're disconnecting this, the black and yellow one went to the green side, and the grey and yellow one went to the yellow side. So while I'm doing the steering wheel, Henry's doing the ICC and the trim panels around that. What size is that, Henry?
8mm.
Just 8mm bolts. Just keep track of those two. So once that horn and airbag pad is off, you've got these wires here, which are all connected to the thing, but I think that'll all come out. We'll I think we can unplug it from up here. Okay, we'll test that in a minute. Right, we need to get that Torx connector there now to get the steering wheel off. Now I've left that in just a bit and I ended up wiggling this backwards and forwards, and now that has come loose. Apparently you can use a steering wheel puller, but I found just pulling on it didn't work, but wheeling it backwards and forwards loosened it up, and now I can take that bolt out, and that all should just pull out. So that connector needs to come out too at the back, so I'll remove that connector and then the whole thing can come out. So we've got that top piece off there too. There's two ways of doing this. One is to do it in one part and one is to do it in multiple parts. We chose the multiple part route. Just it'll glue back together, I'm sure, Henry. Alternatively, we'll put some nice cool carbon fiber twin pressure. We'll put tie pressure gauges in there and something cool. Right, onto the next job. Alright, now the steering wheel's off, we should be able to pull these. That just pulled up from the edge there. That seems to just want to pull off. And hopefully keep pulling that, and we'll be able to then get the cluster out. And then it's really just finishing off this ICC, probably the glove box. Then we can get to all the bolts around the dash, I think. Yeah, this is an exciting, fun job, isn't it? Anyway, we'll keep working. Just remember when doing this, dropping that steering column down to its lowest point may actually give you a little bit more room to move. So once that's all loose, that and the top of the steering column surround all just lifts off like that. And now we've got access to these screws and the cluster. Alright, I'm going to try and get this cluster out. So there's a screw down there and a corresponding one over this side. They're both Phillips heads. I'm working on the theory once that comes out I'll be able to pull the cluster, and there'll probably be a electrical socket that disconnects from the electrical circuitry. Right, so when you're doing the ICC, there's screws down there that need removing. A couple up here once you get that cover off, and disconnect that wire loom at the plug. And then what does it do, Henry? Just pulls out, does it? Yeah. Well, that was simple. Righto. Alright, put that somewhere safe. We'll probably need that to put back in later. So as soon as you've got those two screws out that I showed you before, there and there, center of screen, this cluster just lifts out, and just need to disconnect that if you want to disconnect that, Henry. One on each side. Whoop. Alright, now just before we go too much further, do they only go in one way? So that right hand one is, because they may get a bit twisted up when we pull everything out. So do we mark it right and left? Just grab the pen.
That was up, and this was with the tail on the bottom.
Okay, well they're different shapes, so there's only one way they can go back. Righto, good. We've taken off the two kick panels, and there's a couple of 8mm bolts here that you need to be able to get these side panels off, and you need to be able to get them off so you can get to these screws down there. Don't know if we can do this and just bend that plastic out of the way enough to be able to get to the screws, or whether we're going to have to take the full console out, but we might try and do it without taking the whole console out. Alright, when trying to get this trim off on the driver's side, it just unclips. Apparently on this side there's a bazillion screws underneath that have to come out first, so we're going to pop them out. We've started that trim obviously, but we're going to let those screws out and tag them, put them in the plastic bags, and then hopefully that trim comes out. Righto, when pulling these side covers off, I just pulled from this vent and pushed in that direction, and that got that off. It probably needs a bit of, there we go. Pushed down, and you get your side.
I've got it out this.
I rotate it, so mine was like that. I rotated it down at the back and it came out. So see if you can pull the bottom forward and the top back.
There's a whole bunch of, there's a screw down in there.
But not holding that on, surely.
I don't think so, but maybe. Because it's solid here. Just gonna keep videoing that.
I might. So you need to get that side trim off to get that last screw out there, and that'll drop the glove box off. So what's that, screw number 16 for the glove box, I think. So once that glove box is off, just disconnect those wires that go to the glove box light, and the whole unit can come out. Right, it would appear these two bolts holding the steering column there and there connected to that. I thought that all lifted off separately, but still not convinced they've got to come off actually, Henry. Right, so there's 4 bolts on the steering column, which we have no idea whether you need to undo or not, but given that the dash isn't coming out freely, the theory is we'll remove these now. That's that one. Loosen those 2 off. What's going on with this? I think that's it. Back one here. Right. No, it makes no difference at all. Now, before doing anything further, you've got to remove, or at least move this console back. To move it back, we need to get down to these little tabs. So you flip it open from the top and it hinges on the bottom. What is it, an 8mm, Henry?
Yeah.
An 8mm. What that will allow us to do, you can see here we've got the seats pushed forward. It'll allow us to then slide that console back so we can disconnect it from the dash surround. So now that we've removed those rear bolts, we've been able to slide this backwards. We sort of lifted it up at the back to make this happen. I didn't get it on video, but we lifted it at the back and slid it backwards. Now the only problem is when we join this back up, those vents from the heater box, which presumably is something we're going to pull out now anyway, have to line up with that vent there, and you can see that vent and the foam surround there, but it had to come out because we had to remove that from in that point there, and same on this side. So all that has to line up when we put it back together. But we're no closer to, that's a little bit loose, but nothing's popping out of it. There must be another bolt here somewhere. We'll keep working. Just There's another, should I see, yep. So you've disconnected that one from that block there. Right. That'll come out now. And it's still connected. Right. There's also a bolt up here. Now this vent, I'm sure Ford engineers sat around for years and said, this is going to be sitting in the sun. Let's make this from the most brittle plastic ever known to mankind, because as soon as I touched that, it just disintegrated. We'll try and get another one. I don't know how that's going to work. I reckon every Falcon driving around New South Wales and Queensland's probably got this missing from it. We'll see what we can do. So there's also a couple of bolts. You can just see that one poking out down there. It's been pulled out. Now it's night time now, so we're going to give it a go, Henry, or what? Alright. Well, welcome back. It's day 7, although technically we haven't done anything for 6 days, so it's the 2nd day. Henry's just pulled out 3 bolts there. There's 2 top ones which are a 10 and a bottom one which is a 6. Just show us those bolts there, Henry.
It's an 8.
Was it? That's the 8. So did that make it looser? I think so. Alright, we'll do that on the other side and then we'll see how that goes. We asked a few questions on the FG forum, or I did. Got a few responses but nothing that was definite. I still feel like there's something holding the dash near the windscreen, but we'll get these bolts out and we'll just see if that loosens everything up. So these are the bolts on this side. So we've just pulled that trim off there for a bolt in here, and there is no bolt. So don't need to pull that trim off. If you're doing this at home, leave that piece of trim there. Right, we just can't seem to be able to get anything loose in the center. All this metal frame seems to be part of the overall dash unit, and even though we've pulled these screws out, I don't think we needed to. But way down in here, you can see there's a bolt just, let's go in this way, see if we can do it that way. There's a bolt, that, see that bracket there, and that bolt just in view now. I think that's got to come out. That connects this whole dash. So we're going to try that and see how we go. So that's, to give you context, that sun's terrible, isn't it? That bolt comes from that metal frame here. It comes down like a horseshoe piece and a bolt goes through there. That might be a better shot. It shows the socket actually on the nut. Right, so day 8. We didn't do anything days 2 till 6. We did a little bit less day. I showed you the video on that. We just got this bit out. Show us again, Will, what you did there. You just pulled that straight out.
Pulled that out, heard a big riff.
So it made a bit of a popping noise.
Popping clip, yeah.
And it's out. This side, not helping, so we'll try again.
That has to be disconnected too.
So what is there? There's wires.
8mm or whatever it is.
An 8mm bolt, or
yeah,
but
holding an earth strap.
Oh, right, okay.
And then this is
right. So we're having trouble getting this out because this is holding it in. So we've just taken the surround out. That just clicked out. There's 3 longer screws that go into this one, and that one. They're removed, and I've just removed little screws from there, and back here, and hopefully that gives us enough wriggle room to pull this plastic trim back. We'll give that a try. Hi, day 9, although as I explained before, most days haven't been worked on, and we're only getting bits and pieces done. So last night we actually got this loose, but we've discovered, and I thought we were going to take a shortcut. I thought we were going to be able to get this out without removing the center console. That's not the case. So last night we pulled off the gear surround. Couldn't remove the center console because the handbrake's in the way. Can't remove the handbrake because the seats are in the way. So all the videos we saw that removed the seats and the center console first, there was a reason for that. So I'm going to get this out today. Then this is loose. So that doesn't look loose, but it is loose. We'll get that out, and then we actually might get to a stage where we can actually get to that heater box. So getting to the front seats, there's a cover over that. That's the cover. It sits over there. Just pull those plastic trim pieces off. It's got one of these star fitting Torx screw. I think it's a Torx 40 or a Torx 50. Was it, Henry? 40 or 50. 4 of them. We're going to get that out, and then we'll pop that seat out. So when you're pulling that seat out, you just have to disconnect that wiring loom to the seat, as well as those 4 bolts. And found another screw. Righto, that could be the rattle we've been chasing. We can put it all back together now. Okay, so once that's seats out, you can get to these 3 bolts here and disconnect that handbrake assembly, and then that should allow us enough freedom to move this out of the way. At the moment, the handbrake's just stopping us from going forward or backwards. We've obviously pulled the handle off, that just slips off. It's just trying to get that boot over. There may be a way of separating these 2 plastic bits. We haven't got to that bit yet. There probably is, but we'll try this first. Right, we've got that. We haven't got it out, but we've got it to an angle where we can remove this. There's a couple of wires under the dash that need to be disconnected. One's on the back of the steering column down there. I think that's going to be enough to then remove that. Right, when doing the wiring disconnect, I've got that one there disconnected. That fuse box is wired down into all this. I think the easiest way is to actually just connect that fuse box up here, there and there, and just let that fuse box hang down, and then that, there's more wires. That's been disconnected. There's wires everywhere here. Alright, I think we've got, I'm guessing some of that wiring loom stays behind, so maybe that just gets pushed back in, and that stays behind when we lift this out, and that means we don't have to do that. But I think this white fuse box will have to come out, Henry. So change of plan, rather than disconnecting the actual fuse box, we disconnected everything down in that electrical box in the right kick panel. We've done the same over in the passenger's footwell in the left kick panel behind that. I think the white boxes are going to have to come up with the dash. I'm not sure how that's going to work, unless there's another plug above that we can disconnect. Anyway, I think we're going to give this another go. Right, so that's out. Now we did have to cut a few little wires. Not really sure why, but you'll see here, this will give you a better description of what got disconnected. So that's the passenger electrical box. That connects in behind the handbrake. So there's two little connectors in. There's a module sits behind the handbrake. That sits in there and connects. That's under the, that's just the auxiliary port, and the connectors under the center console. That's the steering connector and the harness. That's the driver's side right footwell wire box. You can see what's disconnected now. There was a few wires there. This is an ex-police car, and there's a few wires that just didn't have a plug and connected up into the thing. So those three wires there, I'll just put connectors on those three and connect them back on here, which is that portion there. And hopefully with those connectors on there, we can just reconnect them as we go. Now we can actually see the heater box. So I think it's a fairly long video. I think we're going to make this episode 1, getting the dash out. Episode 2, we'll have a look at trying to get that heater box out. And that's the bit that's causing us all the trouble. Now we've got to disconnect that from the firewall. Whether the heater box has to come out in its entirety or not, I don't know, but we're going to give this a bit of a clean up in here too while everything's out. The carpet's still a bit damp from when it let go all the coolant, so we'll dry that out. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Hope this explains it. It's certainly longer than that guy's video, which was 39 seconds time lapse, but hopefully you get a bit of an idea of how to do it.